Champ, well, congratulations on another win just racking up. Extending this winning streak as long as we possibly can.
That's right.
With another win over Juliana. I mean, where does this one rank in terms of difficulty out of the past two?
I would say out of the past three, this is the most difficult fight. You know, in the first, I really felt like it was just me in my own way, like thinking like, well, she's the champion, getting my head like, well, I've messed up the other times I faced a champion. And then getting to a point where like, no, I'm better than her. Like, I trained Alima and helped her get ready for her fight. I know what her weaknesses are. Don't get in your head. And that's why I was able to flip it then. Second time I went out because she caused a lot of drama and she wasn't polite when I went to shake her hand and turned away from me. So I was like, okay, now I'm coming out with the vengeance. This one, I thought I had her number and she improved so much and it was more improvement than what I was anticipating.
So did you kind of, notice, I guess, the like little intricacies maybe in the fight compared to the past two?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely noticed her wrestling defense was on point, right? Her reads for me fainting stuff, she was able to really read it really well. I definitely saw her struggle where she went to like elbow me, but stopped herself and she's like, oh wait, that can't do that. So I was impressed. I'm like, all right, here comes the elbow, I'm gonna get it. I just had to be ready for it. And then she held back. I was like, okay, cool. Like that shows a lot of thought that's going into this and a lot of training. So I know that she worked really hard for this fight.
I know you're very humble, Liz, despite being one of the best flyweights on the planet. And it's weird, like to me, to see that you're not like #1 on the leaderboard, right? You just to kind of expect that of you. So, what is kind of the mentality right now? Obviously, this is incredibly fresh, and Sean told you in the cage, but like knowing you're #4 on the list right now.
Yeah, you know, I've always been used to being the underdog. It wasn't until these last few years where I wasn't considered the underdog, and that was something new for me. So I like the idea of having to work back and come out even hungrier, right? And I knew looking at the lineups, I was kind of like, man, some of these fighters kind of got hammy fights. Like they're fighting girls that they have way more experience with. Some people had more than 20 fights, and they're fighting somebody with 2 fights. So I knew, I'm like, wow, that's going to be some quick finish. This is not really fair. And I have everybody in here. I have one of the toughest opponents on the roster. Right, so I knew it was going to be difficult, and I know that if I can get that first round finish, I'm good. But then as I'm like sitting backstage, I'm like, there's another first round. I'm like, you can do this, Liz. And I was gunning for it, but she held me at bay, and I think she knew what I was coming for as well.
So did you get a chance to kind of watch the other fights? Were you just kind of glancing, obviously preparing for your own fight?
Yeah, so I did get to watch the fights a little bit. I try not to because I get amped up and I start thinking about my fight and then get too caught up, and then I get that adrenaline impact, and then you get to the fight tired. So I was trying to keep it at bay, like tune in a little bit just to get an idea, but also concentrate what I needed to do because I knew my fight was coming up.
Somebody impressing you most?
Yeah, I would say that kind of everyone I anticipated to come out successful, Talia Santos, Dakota, I knew that they were all going to come out on top, did exactly that.
And I saw an interview you did leading up to this week. You said you were unsure if you're still technically the Bellator champion.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with that. I know that it was offered an opportunity that they said, just based on this tournament, they didn't even know what that meant for the future of women in Bellator. So it really kind of left no choice for me, but it was a choice that I was embracing, and I was excited about the possibility. But I thought I'd have a chance to like do the tournament and defend the belt. And now it looks like I may only do the tournament, but that's still an awesome opportunity.
You can always win that one back if needed. So
Exactly.
Congrats, champ.
Thank you.
So you're now 3-0 against Juliana with wins in 3 different methods.
Yeah.
Would you say you've proven all you possibly can against her at this point?
Yeah, I'd like to say that there's really nothing else to prove more against her, right? You know, like I finished her with ground and pound, I finished her with submission, I finished her everywhere else. So I think at this point I've kind of proven that I'm the better fighter out of the two of us, and it shouldn't be any more doubts.
So you were close to getting the heel hook at the end of the 3rd round,
Yeah.
close to getting the armbar at the end of the 2nd round. You feel like if you had a little bit more time in either of those rounds, that you would have ended up getting the submission?
Yeah, and of course, if there are elbows involved, I think that both of those, in all the situations would play out differently for both of us. Even on the cage, I saw her like frame off like she was ready to throw an elbow. She didn't. You know, there were opportunities where it's like, okay, if I could land a few short shots and get in there tight, I know I could do that. Elbow could do that. You know, like even trying to get the arm, she had really good arm control that limited my ability to get in there to advance the position to do what I needed to.
So you'll be making a return to familiar territory on June 13th, Connecticut, they announced that the women's flyweights.
All right,
and
news to me.
so
Here we go again.
I figured, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to get your reaction on that. How do you feel about going back to Connecticut?
Yeah, Connecticut's been good to me, not just because of winning, but just like the personnel, the way they put it together. They're, you know, like you have some places where you go and it seems like maybe they don't really want to be working there, but the staff is always super nice and they seem to be like uplifting to everybody. So that's just like a place I like going. It's a familiar place where I know the grounds as far as getting all my food situation, getting the weight cut situated. So it's good to go back to familiar territory because you know the process and it makes it that much smoother.
For sure. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I gotta ask. MMA fighter, 3 tours in Iraq. What's tougher?
You know what? I think when I went into Iraq, I knew what I was getting into. You know, I had no family, I didn't have a wife, I didn't have a kid. My parents knew the idea of what I was going into. So when I went to, I had the idea, like, just a stupid young 21-year-old, 22-year-old, like, if it happens, if I get blown up today, if I get shot today, I'm serving my country, I'm doing what's right. I'm okay with that. I don't want to go into the cage and get killed. Like, I have a wife and son, so it's a lot more dangerous when you don't know what your opponent, what they have in mind, if they're going to stick to the rules. So it's definitely a very different, because I have different responsibilities and I owe more to more people now.
How's that prepared you in your fighting career?
It prepared me just because I knew I could face any adversity, that somebody that's not trying to blow me up or shoot me is far less threatening than somebody that's just trying to hit me in the face.
Absolutely. And then last question for me. Obviously, PFL format's different than what you've been used to. How are you planning to recover? Are you doing anything different after this fight to just recover and keep yourself in that shape for the next fight?
No, so one of the things I've tried to do is always go back to training right away, right? And I feel like for the times, like I had a short notice fight, I got a 3-week notice fight at 125, and I just fought, but I came back and one of my training partners had a fight. So I came back immediately on Monday and helped him get ready and was there at every single practice, letting him beat the crap out of me, right? With somebody who's in peak shape. But that helped me because I took a 3-week notice fight against Kana and I ended up winning. So I'm used to being able to come back in, and sometimes that honestly helps the recovery better because you're in motion, you're doing what you need to.
Thank you. Thomas Galdenzi with Combat Sports Coverage. How hard was it for you not to use the elbows? You've been a long-time UFC veteran. You're probably really used to the elbows. How was it hard for you not to use the elbows, or was it just okay?
It was difficult simply, and I knew that I could advance positions and win certain things if I'd been able to throw the elbows. But I was honestly kind of impressed with myself to have that thought, like, I know what, don't do it though, you don't have to throw an elbow here. And then thinking like, I think she's gonna throw an elbow at me, right? But I was able to be so in tune. It was not like an adrenaline rush where I wasn't thinking about the actions of what I needed to do in advance. I was able to be in my body and in that moment and know not to do it. But I certainly also recognized, like, man, if I could just throw an elbow right there, this would end so much quicker.
And that was actually going to bring up my next question. Like, how do you feel about not using elbows? Do you wish you guys could use the elbows, or you see why you guys can't use it because of tournament format?
Yeah, no, I definitely get it, right? If we had 4 months before our next fight, then that would be different. Then we'd have some time to heal. But when I'm going back in the cage on June 13th, the last thing I want is to be second guessing. Even if the commission's like, hey, you're cleared enough, you're fine. Worried in practice and taking risks and not taking risks I would normally take just to be healthy. So I like the format. I think it's smart and allows us to continue to get the whole season on.
And if you could pick your next opponent, who would it be?
If I could pick my next opponent, probably Dakota.
And then after all the dust settles and you're in the finals, who do you think you're going to see?
I think that's hard. I think I'm going to have to look at the scoreboards and see who it is that's going to be advancing forward, and then I can get a better idea of who it might be.
And then when you win that $1 million, what are you going to do with it?
I'm going to be responsible when I get the $1 million. I need to pay off a home because we decided to move to Tennessee, get 6 acres, and my wife has been adopting in-need animals. So we now have a farm full of animals that are all healing and need to be fed.
First of all, congratulations on Saturday Fight Talk. Can you talk about the PFL format and how you have to change your preparation? You don't have as much time as to have a camp in between the fights?
Yeah, I don't think it's as much preparation in the sense that I normally get right back to training all the time anyway. It's only been like the last few years just because of my family's desire. Like I go to Hawaii, well, let's stay for a week after in Hawaii. It's not like here, I'll take 2 days, but I'm still gonna work out while I'm here. But I'm gonna teach a seminar here in San Antonio, enjoy the sights, and then I'm gonna head home, help my wife, train while I'm there, and then jump right into fight camp. So it's really no turnaround, but every fight I've had, at 6 a.m. I'm up in the morning and I'm doing cardio and I'm weightlifting right after my fight. So my format of taking time off never really happens, so that's not even a problem for me.
Too much on your plate, huh?
Too much.
Okay, so this is obviously the third time you fought Juliana Velasquez. You said she felt different in there. I was wondering if you can identify what felt the most different. What changed the most between the last fight and this fight?
Yeah, I would say for one, her reads on my feints, she read them really well. I would say that her takedown defense was on point, and her even countering to try and throw me. In our previous fights, she wasn't trying to engage and utilize wrestling. She wasn't trying to engage and utilize her judo. She simply threatened it as a possibility just to put somebody on the defensive, but never actually tried. She was actually trying to implement it. That was the first. On the ground, she was doing really good of trying to control and trying to get her own submissions. She was trying to control my arms so I couldn't advance, and she was able to keep me on top and not passing into a more dominant position, which is a huge improvement for everything else. When I got on top, the fight was over in the pass. This time that wasn't the case. She was able to subdue everything.
Okay, and you said you wanted to, if you could choose, obviously, you would want to fight Dakota next. I mean, a couple other fighters have said that. Why is it that everybody wants to fight her now instead of, fighting her in the finals when the stakes are a little bit bigger?
I mean, I'll take her in the finals too. I don't really care. I mean, in all honesty, I'm just grateful that I came out, I'm healthy, I got the win, I'm able to advance. I don't care who it is. I know that the way my draws usually go, I always get the toughest opponents. Everybody else kind of gets the potential for easy success. So my only real demand would be is that everybody else gets some real challenge and gets tough opponents as well, so they get tested with no guarantees of an easy first win finish.
Understood. And last question, welcome to Texas. How are you enjoying it here?
Yeah, I love Texas. You know, this is one of the places when my wife and I were talking about moving out of San Diego, California. I'm the one that put Texas on the table. I'm like, hey, I hear about, for one, just how much Austin's blowing up with the jiu-jitsu programs, with MMA programs. I've heard so many great things. Her brother lived there, and we heard nothing but cool things. I'm like, yeah, Texas sounds pretty cool. Let's go to Texas. But she wanted a little bit of a different vibe and wanted to try out Tennessee. So I didn't win on that, so I'm a Texas fan.
Well, we'll be happy to have you.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And how are you doing, champ? You know, Carlito Fight Talk here, and hell of a performance today, and my first PFL event.
Nice.
You know, and getting to see you in the octagon is a tremendous honor. And what do you do next? You know, in the next 6 months, what would you like to accomplish?
In the next 6 months, it's going to be 2 more wins. That's the accomplishment, right? Right, is to get that win on June 13th, get whenever the date happens to be next, get that third win, and then know that I'm in line to head for the finals.
Facts. So you talk about your family, you know, and your preparations for all this fight. How do you balance all that out?
My wife. If it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't balance any of it. You know, like, she has a trust in me that she knows when I go away for 2 months, 3 months for fight camp, that I'm committing 7 days a week to training my butt off. And in turn, she stays home and she takes care of our son. She takes care of the farm, all the animals. We were able to balance each other, and that I offer as much support as I can. And she has trust and faith in me that I'm giving everything I have in preparation for fight camp.
Amen to that. You know, and talk about just getting into the octagon. You know, how did you make that leap, you know, this years back? How did you make that leap into it?
From friends. I had some roommates, and I talked about how I wanted to do MMA when I got out of the Marine Corps. There was a gym nearby. It was 6 of us living in one house, sharing one key. They kicked me out of the house and said, like, hey, you've been talking about this dream. Don't make any more excuses. Go to the gym. You can come back in once you've done that. I went, and I immediately knew it's what I wanted to do, and I've never turned back.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And thank you, thank you for the time, and look forward to seeing you next.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.